So welcome everybody to another episode of Chocolate Travels. Today I'm talking to Daniel from Fairbank Engineering, and we're going to discuss what it is he does, how it's connected to chocolate. So Daniel, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Joseph.
So I know that a lot of chocolate makers that I encounter, a lot of craft chocolate makers, they don't actually come from the culinary background. A lot of them are in different industries. They decided to do something different, and a lot of them actually have been engineers.
Yes,
and
I've
so
actually met quite a few people who are engineers, and they see the product and like, oh, this is so cool.
So for you, you're still sticking to the engineering. What is it that brought you to start developing equipment specifically for chocolate?
Yeah, so during COVID, we all got sent home from work. We were all working from home. I'm a really hands-on type of guy, and I like getting my hands dirty with most of the engineering stuff. And so sitting at home, I was pretty bored. And I have some good friends down in the Cape, the folks at Chequesset Chocolate. I think they're on your app as well.
Mm-hmm.
They had bought a product similar to mine, but from one of the traditional OEMs, and it really didn't perform all that well. And I'm sitting at home with all of this time, and I decided, I'm going to make something for them that works better. And so I had just bought a milling machine, which is a piece of equipment you use to machine metal so that you can make parts similar to this. And just kind of started from, I'm bored, they have a problem, and let's see if we can solve it. And so we went through.
Did they ask you to solve it, or you just kind of were talking to them and thought, I can do this?
Yeah, we were just chatting about their business, and this unit that they had just bought was like a real pain point. And so something from an engineering standpoint is, you find pain points, and like if you can find pain points and fix them, that's a big deal. And so no, they didn't ask me to do it. I was just like, hey, I really want to do this. It kind of fits in this mind frame that I'm at right now, where I want to like work on a project. I want to do something fun, keep my mind active. Yeah, so that's like the early genesis of it. I can keep going further.
Well, we'll break it down a little bit more.
Sure.
We'll go into your main product right now, which is the chocolate depositor. And
Yes.
You describe it that it uses channeling systems through tubes, which is different from other models and how they work. What made you realize that this way of creating it would work better, and how is it different from other models?
Yeah, so it was a iterative process. So I started off by making something that was very similar to one of the traditional ones. And so what I've dubbed that is what's called a cavity-based design. So they just take a plate of aluminum and they mill out a pocket, and then they put a bunch of holes in it and put a baffle on top and assume that the chocolate's going to flow evenly to the holes. Okay. And so I did that, and I quickly found out that that's not really uniform. And so over the course of 9 or 10 iterations of trying to figure out what kind of features I can machine into a part, how do I get uniform chocolate flow? And about halfway through that, I realized I needed to use some analytical tools in order to calculate what that exit velocity of the chocolate was. And so I went to a provider of simulation software, and they had an entrepreneurship program where you could get their software for free for a year if you like provide a business plan, essentially. And so I got their software, and I started doing computational fluid dynamics on chocolate, of all things. And so what the computational fluid dynamics does is it allows you to tailor the size and shape and position of each one of my channels so that the exit velocity of each one of my nozzles is within some framework that I say. So I say like
Okay.
within 1% of each other.
Right.
And so it's an iterative process, right? You don't start off by saying, aha, I have to go to this.
Right.
We make a cavity and it doesn't work. We try and do equal lengths.
I'm just going to stop you. You made a cavity and it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Why, can you simplify in a way, what is it about, kind of pushing down that cavity? Why doesn't it enter each exit in the same way?
It's just path of least resistance, right? You can just imagine, if you fill up a tray of chocolate and you do one stream, the outside is going to get touched last. And that's essentially the exact same thing that happens with the cavity-based designs. They attempt to fix that by putting a baffle in and spreading it out, but it's not really consistent and uniform. There was a bunch of steps in between getting from that cavity over to the patented channel-based design.
Okay. And so at what point did you actually start completing it and using it on the machines, using it with chocolate, and how did that go initially?
After I started out doing it with honey at first, and then I bought some like cheap chocolate from Walmart because I was doing it all in my house with a little setup. And then about the third or fourth iteration, maybe after 3 months, I made one that was we could actually put on a machine and test with it. And so that took about 3.5 or 4 months before we could actually put it on a machine and test it. And then it was another 6 months of refining that design into something where I was comfortable going to a real machine shop and getting like a full finished product. So I was doing all of the R&D design and machining in my own shop. And then and the folks at Sequester were like, it never was actually going to be like a business, right? I was just kind of doing this for them because I was bored. And when we came up with the final one, it was like, this thing works really well. Like, you should probably try and see if people are interested in it. And they helped out a lot with getting it in front of people in the first year. It's kind of like the really cool thing about the craft chocolate industry is everybody's really close. It's a tight-knit group of people. And it, if you're good to people, they're good back to you,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, that's great. I've seen testimonials of other chocolate makers I know, even Cyrene in Canada is using it too. And did you, because you were talking about using Walmart chocolate and then you used other types of chocolate and honey. So is there any impact if somebody was using this as a chocolatier and they just had some very fluid couverture chocolate versus, let's say, a chocolate maker who has no added cocoa butter, it's just cocoa bean and sugar, so it's very thick. Can they still use the same product for either type?
So I actually was on my way home from work talking to a gentleman in the United States. His company is Treasure State Chocolate. Real good guy, Francesco. And he does true 2 ingredients. So no added cocoa butter, just sugar and the ground cacao with its natural amount of cocoa butter in it. And it works great. I have it running on his FBM machine and I have it running on his Sell Me machine. And then even if you go up to like really thin 100% chocolates with cocoa butter added, it works great. There is a little bit of so the viscosity does have some impact on it. It does change it. It's not dramatic enough to be make or break for most chocolates. Now there is like, out of the 25 or 30 people that have my unit and the 5 or 10 chocolates that each one of those people do, there's two specific chocolates that it hasn't worked on, but those are like really specialized weird butter, coconut butter with something else going into it.
Right.
So it's pretty. Yeah, go ahead.
This product obviously chocolatiers can use it too with their high cocoa butter, less than chocolate's very flowy, but generally they don't need this as much sometimes because I worked as a chocolatier. You can do a lot of pouring by hand, scraping, and because it's so fluid, it's not a problem. But the bean to bar makers, they want it to be consistent and they have a lot of trouble because it's so thick. So if it works for them, then that's definitely definitely a
Yeah.
sign.
And I'm not sure how the large majority of people that are using it now are all being to bar folks. But really, the big unique highlighted benefit is its bar weight uniformity, right?
So
When you see
let's go
bars that are
over the points then, since you're going into it now. If
sure.
somebody were to switch over to your unit, your
Yep.
depositor, why should they go through the hassle? What are the benefits that they're going to get using it?
Yeah. So um again, the whole framework for designing this was looking at the cost impact of reducing the variation of each bar's weight. And so if you look at some of the units that are out there right now, um, they'll produce bars if you're targeting 60 grams. If you have 3 bars in a mold, you'll get 60 grams on one, 65 grams on another, and 66 grams on another, or 63 grams. And so if you think about that from a numbers standpoint, that's pretty close to 10% of your weight, overweight on one bar. And if you do 100,000 bars a year and 1/3 of your bars is 10% over, it actually ends up being a lot of money, like tens of thousands of dollars, right? Even if you're selling it wholesale, it still ends up being tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And so it's really a focus on, you guys are doing production work. If you're doing 100,000 bars a year, you need uniformity. And can we get uniformity out of these continuous tempering machines that are maybe one step before a real production type machine, right? And so that's the fundamental principle of why I made this unit. And there's a whole bunch of other benefits that come from the way I designed it. But you know, uh, all of the units, even the custom stuff that we do, we maintain that same level of bar weight uniformity.
Okay. So there's the cost saving, the bar weight uniformity, which is tied hand in hand. Are there any other benefits? You mentioned there are a few more. What
Yeah, so
else?
like one of the big ones is like if you have new people, if you're bringing people on, you have a chocolate maker within the first 4 hours. You're not training them on how to like sweep the mold under it and then shake it out. You
Right.
you throw it in, it drops it, you put it on the shaker table, you're done. One of the it increases efficiency from your training standpoint. It increases efficiency from how fast you can do it. I had one of my early beta testers got the unit and was like, I wanted to do like a quick trial to see like how many bars could I make in an hour. And within 15 minutes, he went through every single mold he had and he made like 300 bars in 15 minutes. So when you have a really good distribution of the nozzles into the mold so that you don't have to vibrate for really long, when you don't have to recycle bars because they're overweight, it increases all of those efficiencies.
Yeah.
And
Adds
then
up.
some of the more mundane stuff is like trapped inside the depositor, there's only ever 150 grams roughly of chocolate, whereas in some of the other cavity based ones, there's almost like 2 pounds of chocolate. So makes cleaning a real mess. If you ever let that cool down, you have to warm all that up. So you're sitting there with a heat gun, or you're letting the elements try and melt it, which never actually work for like hours. So my unit, you can let the chocolate solidify in it, turn on the heater, and 15 minutes later, everything's fluid and liquid again, and you can begin running.
Wow.
So that's specifically because of the channels. It's a very small volume that's inside of there.
Right.
And then the other things, it's about 1/3 the weight of most of the other units.
Okay. And it's
Yeah,
easily adaptable to most of the
oh yeah,
models that people are using, you said, right?
that's
Tell
another
me.
one, right? So our unit we make it interchangeable with any tempering machine. I can, like I said, the gentleman over at Treasure State, he has an FBM and he has a Sell Me, and he can change it between the two of them. We come up with standardized custom nozzles, so now I know, what the nozzle looks like for FBM, what the nozzle looks like for GAMI. Sell Me happens to be the standard without a nozzle because it's just what we designed it on. And
Okay.
Yeah, and so that's another one. There's really there's no depositors out there that you could take. You couldn't take Selmies and put it on a GAMI or an FBM or something like that. So
No, I think,
interchangeability and
yeah. No, it sounds like something that can maker can easily implement into how they make chocolate. And
yeah,
like you said, there's a lot of benefits, the cost and the uniformity, which, you know, if the, like you said, if those things are not lining up, the cost to remelt
yeah,
the bars, temper them again.
yeah,
And even like you said, that's a good point too. People don't think about is the training of a new employee. It's the
yep.
skill of chocolate, of getting the timing and everything. It's not
It's
hard,
a lot,
but it takes time for people to
right?
develop that. So if you have a machine that can do that
Yeah,
instead of them having to learn it, that makes a huge difference, especially in the
it
food
does.
industry where you're always going through employees sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that covers the large majority of the benefits.
Okay. And it sounds like you have a lot of positive feedback from all sorts of makers happy with this product. So that's pretty cool. How does that feel to know that you creating
You know,
something for all these makers?
it's it's nice getting the emails because I'm constantly in my own head. I'm like, is this why am I doing this? Nobody really likes it. And then somebody sends me an email and they're like, this thing's so awesome. And I'm like, that's why I'm doing it, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And so it's kind of, you know, as an engineer, it frustrates me seeing people underserved by their engineering
Mm,
backing, right? And so you have companies that are producing something that is garbage,
mm.
right? It's not really good. And they just continue to produce it, even though they know there's issues and even though they know there's
That's
problems
the
with
thing
it.
is they
And
know,
like,
but we don't know as the
right.
consumer. Yeah.
Yep. And, and that from an engineer standpoint bothers me, you know,
Mm,
the industries that I came from, like when you're developing a product and you put it out, there's no, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. It has to work 100% of the time.
mm,
And so I strive for that. I'm not saying it's perfect.
mm-hmm.
Um, but you know, like more than happy to work with customers whenever there is issues and work through them. I have a really, I think I have a really good program for how to onboard customers. Like, you know, I'll give you a unit as long as you can use the standard units, you can trial it for 1 week, 2 weeks, a
Okay.
month and a half, 2 months, and that gives people a chance to try it without a huge financial commitment.
Right.
Um, and I think that helps a lot because all the other folks, you know, you're buying it and then you're locked in. And I know a lot of companies that have bought these units and it's literally a paperweight after the first week, and that money's gone. With mine, at least, not that it's actually happened yet. I think maybe one person sent it back,
Okay.
but out of like 25 or 30, you get the unit in front of you and it works well enough that people want to keep it.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, and that's a big deal too, especially a lot of these brands, you know, that I'm aware of too. It's very important to them. So if they like it, then it must definitely be a pretty good product to keep on board. Because as a
yeah,
chocolatier, chocolate's so expensive. The labor, the cost of the ingredient. If there's anything that makes your life a bit easier, you know, and doesn't
right,
ruin the quality of the product, you're gonna do it for sure.
right, totally.
Good. And it's also the story is really cool too, how, you know, this is almost by accident, you know, you were bored, these friends had a problem, you're an engineer and it just worked out.
Yeah,
It's always exciting to hear those sorts of stories.
yeah. It's been 3 years now, actually, and it's kind of like wow, this actually worked. And I mean, it was a lot of work, and I actually put the
Right.
work in, and it's something that's viable, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
On top of my regular 9 to 5 job that I work, you know.
Definitely. Are you looking for other problems, pain points in the chocolate industry now, or what are you other ideas? Are you gonna
Everybody
maybe
wants me to make everybody wants me to make a tempering machine, which is probably
why?
not on my horizon.
What is the reason they give you?
Um, they don't temper very well. They don't deal well with 2 ingredient chocolate.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, one of the biggest one that all of them have is, you know, if you have a bowl, if your bowl of chocolate is full, and as you get halfway through it, you have to change the dosing cycle to dose longer. and you get to a quarter, you have to dose longer because you don't have a variable speed, or you don't, you have a fixed speed auger and you don't have a variable speed auger that's compensating for that drop in head pressure.
Right.
And it's like little things like that where all of these chocolate makers know them. And it's just, okay, well, yeah, we have to deal with it. And everybody in the industry deals with it. And somebody new comes in and starts, and they're like, what are all these problems?
Right.
And they're like, oh, yeah, this is typical. You just have to deal with it. Like, where are these manufacturers coming in and fixing their product and making it better?
Right,
you know?
Right. And that's the thing too, is because especially craft chocolate is so new as well. Not that these machines are only for craft chocolate, but it's so new that you don't have many options, right? So if all the machines do the same thing, some of the makers don't even realize maybe there is a solution because they're not engineers, right? So
yeah,
no, that's good to have these
so
ideas.
No, I don't think that in the near future going to be developing any new products. Really right now, focus on making the depositor as robust as I can so that I can continue to do it and continue to supply it. I have two different things going on from a business standpoint that are completely unrelated to chocolate. And this takes up enough of my time where I don't have the energy or the resources to really go after some more low-hanging fruit pain points. Right.
No, but that's still a wonderful thing that you've created. I think it'll help a lot of people out. So it's been nice to talk to you about that, get the backstory on that. If people want to contact you to either purchase that or learn more information, what's the best way to contact you?
So the best way to contact me is email me at fairbankengineering@gmail.com. I have all of my contact phone number on my website as well. You can message me directly on Fairbank Engineering on Instagram. I'll pretty much text back whenever I can. I do work 9 to 5, so I can't always pick up the phone, but try to get back within 24 hours if somebody reaches out, and typically email is the best way to do that.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, Daniel. It was really nice to talk to you, and I wish you all the best.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Take care. Download the free Bean to Bar app to connect with incredible chocolate makers from around the world. Also, be sure to visit beantobarworld.com, your portal for all things fine chocolate, virtual tastings, free learning resources, research, and much more. Subscribe to the newsletter to stay in touch, and donate to the free app and free resources here. Contact me for any chocolate-related questions you may have.